What do you know about how one policeman destroyed the mafia? Not a gangster, not a killer, not a man with an army, but one with a pen, a file, and a terrifying sense of duty. In a land where silence was law and death was the price of courage, he chose to speak. Part 1, Opening Scene. Sicily, an island bathed in sun, but stained with blood. For decades, this land was ruled by men who called themselves men of honor. They didn't wear uniforms or crowns, but everyone knew who they were: the Mafia, the Cosa Nostra. And for years, the police, the judges, even the politicians looked the other way, until one man decided to break the silence. A quiet, thoughtful prosecutor from Palermo, Giovanni Falcone. He wasn't a soldier, he didn't carry a gun, but he became the man who brought the Mafia to its knees. Part 2, Sicily under the Mafia. By the late 1970s, the Mafia controlled everything: business, construction, shipping, even the markets. If you wanted to build a house, sell fruit, or open a store, you needed their permission. They didn't just rule through fear, they ruled through silence. OMERTÁ. Then came a new generation of killers, the Corleonesi, led by a man named Totorina. He didn't believe in honor, he believed in power. Under his rule, the Mafia turned from a secret brotherhood into a machine of death. They killed rivals, judges, politicians, anyone who stood in their way. Part 3, The Birth of the Anti-Mafia Movement. Falcone saw what was happening, and he refused to stay quiet. He realized that bullets wouldn't stop the Mafia, but money could expose it, so he followed the money, tracing bank accounts, companies, offshore transfers. He discovered how billions flowed from Sicily's heroin trade into Swiss banks and real estate empires. Then in 1983, he and a small group of brave judges formed the Anti-Mafia Pool, a secret team that shared every document, every name, every lead. Their rule was simple: if one of us dies, the others continue. It was the first time the state was truly organized against the Mafia. Part 4, The Turning Point. In 1984, a miracle happened. A high-ranking Mafia boss, Tommaso Buscetta, was captured in Brazil and extradited to Italy. Everyone thought he'd stay silent, but Falcone convinced him to talk. Buscetta became the first pentito, a Mafia man who broke the code of silence. For weeks he spoke. He revealed the Mafia's structure, its hierarchy, its commission, and the names of its real leaders. It was like opening the gates of hell. With Buscetta's testimony, Falcone built the Maxi trial, the largest trial against organized crime in history. 475 defendants, a special fortress-like courtroom built inside Palermo's prison. For 2 years, the world watched as Italy faced its darkest secret. And when the verdict came, 360 Mafia members were convicted. For the first time, justice had won. Part 5, The Revenge. But the Mafia never forgets. On May 23, 1992, Falcone was flying home to Palermo with his wife. As their convoy drove down the highway near Capaci, a ton of explosives buried under the road detonated. The explosion ripped the earth apart. Falcone, his wife Francesca, and 3 bodyguards were killed instantly. It was a message from the Mafia: we can kill anyone. 2 months later, they murdered Falcone's closest friend and ally, Paolo Borsellino. For a moment, it felt like fear had won again. Part 6, Legacy of a Hero. But something unexpected happened. The people of Sicily, the same people who had lived in silence for a century, finally rose up. Tens of thousands marched through Palermo shouting, "No more fear!" Children painted Falcone's face on school walls. Teachers told his story, and on those walls appeared his most famous words, "Men pass away, but ideas remain." Years later, the bosses who ordered his murder, Totorina, Bernardo Provenzano, were captured and sentenced to life in prison. The mafia didn't disappear, but it lost its greatest weapon, the fear in people's hearts. Final part, in closing. Giovanni Falcone knew he would die for what he believed in, but he kept going. He once said, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else is more important." And maybe that's why his story still matters. Because sometimes all it takes to change history is one man who refuses to be afraid. If you felt something while watching this story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Your reactions, your comments, your support, they truly motivate us to keep creating stories like this one. Thank you for watching, and remember, the ideas never die.
Soft echoes fading, shadows call my name.
Sicily, mid-19th century, an island of beauty and poverty, of sunlight and shadow, a place where the law was just a rumor, and power belonged to those who could take it. From this land of silence and fear, a new kind of power was born. Its name, Cosa Nostra. In English, our thing. In the 1800s, Sicily lived off the land. Lemons, oranges, olives, golden fruits that made men rich. But wealth brings envy, and without protection, every fortune became a target. The government was weak, the police corrupt or absent, and so appeared the men of honor, protectors, negotiators, and soon, masters. At first, they guarded the estates. Then they controlled the workers. And soon, they controlled everything. Cosa Nostra became more than a gang. It became a parallel government with its own laws, its own judges, its own silence. OMERTÁ. He who speaks, dies. That rule kept Sicily silent for over a century. The 1960s. Palermo, the heart of the mafia world. Rival clans wage war for control of heroin routes and construction money. June 30th, 1963. A car bomb explodes in the suburb of Chiaculi. 7 officers are killed. For the first time, Italy admits the truth. The mafia is real. The government strikes back. But by then, Cosa Nostra had already infiltrated politics, banks, even the church. The Beast. He turns Cosa Nostra into a killing machine. Judges, prosecutors, police, no one is safe. 1992, 2 explosions, one in Capaci, another in Palermo. Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino, heroes of justice, are murdered. It began in 1986, the Maxi trial of Palermo. Over 475 mobsters on trial, dozens of witnesses, hundreds of confessions. For the first time, Cosa Nostra was recognized as a single organized criminal empire. The verdict: life sentences for many. Italy could finally breathe, but the shadow of the mafia remained. Today, Cosa Nostra doesn't shoot in the streets. It invests in restaurants, tourism, construction, even green energy. It hides behind bank accounts and boardrooms. Smarter, quieter, but no less dangerous. And still, the fight goes on. Cosa Nostra was born from lawlessness and fear, but even the darkest power fades when people refuse to stay silent. Sicily today is more than its mafia. It's a story of resilience, courage, and freedom. In Sicily, betrayal is not just a crime, it's a death sentence. For generations, the mafia ruled with one simple law: OMERTÁ, the code of silence. No one spoke, no one confessed, no one betrayed the family. But one man did, and his words would shake the entire Cosa Nostra to its core. Part 1. The boy from Palermo. He grew up among the narrow streets of Palermo, a place where respect was everything, and fear was the price you paid to survive. He wasn't born a killer, he was born poor. But in post-war Sicily, the mafia was more than crime. It was order, power, and justice of its own kind. He joined young, earning trust through loyalty and silence. By his 30s, he was a respected man, a soldier of honor, a man of silence. Part 2, The Rise. He climbed the ranks quickly. Money flowed. Deals were made. Enemies disappeared. He believed in the family, in loyalty above all. But the mafia was changing. No longer a code of men, but a business of blood. Drugs, greed, and power turned brothers into predators. And when the war for control began, his friends became his hunters. He fled across the ocean to Brazil to escape the mafia and his own past. Part 3, The Fall. But the past always finds you. He was captured, extradited to Italy, and faced life in prison. And in that cold cell, something inside him broke. The mafia had killed his sons, his family, his blood. For the first time in the Sicilian history, a man of honor decided to speak. Part 4, The Confession. He met the judge, a quiet man named Giovanni Falcone. At first, they didn't trust each other. One was law, the other, a criminal. But slowly, truth replaced fear. Over hundreds of hours, he told Falcone everything. The names, the murders, the structure of the entire mafia. It was the first map of the invisible empire of Cosa Nostra. His testimony led to the Maxi trial, the largest anti-mafia case in history. Hundreds of arrests, dozens of life sentences, and for the first time, the mafia bled. Part 5, The Price of Truth. He was called a traitor, a coward, a dead man walking, but he never looked back. He once said,
"I didn't betray the mafia. The mafia betrayed me."
He lived the rest of his life under protection, far from Sicily, but his words remained as a wound and a warning. Because in a land built on silence, one voice was enough to make the whole world listen. If you felt something while watching this story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Your reactions, your comments, your support, they truly motivate us to keep creating stories like this one. Thank you for watching, and remember, the ideas never die.